Who's standing over your shoulder? Who's making sure that the writing gets done? Is there a gremlin watching you as you work? Who is holding you accountable? Well, we're talking about how to hold yourself accountable, so let's head into the storm.
It's the raven's call, the werewolf's howl, the vampire's bite. You search through the woods for safety, but all you find is... Okay, rights.
Hello, writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes. I'm your host and horror short story author, Kemal Onor. I post 5 videos a week at this channel, so make sure that if you like this type of content, if you like writing, make sure to hit like and subscribe, spread the word, make a big community out of this channel. The goal is to help everyone improve their writing. So with that said, let's get into it. One of the most difficult things about being a creative person, or being an author, or being a YouTuber, frankly, is holding yourself accountable. Because as creatives, we don't have a boss, we don't have someone standing over our shoulders, holding us accountable. And especially when you end up graduating from an MFA program, or you end up graduating from a program where you're expected to meet deadlines, when you graduate, these deadlines all go away. So how do we build in accountability for ourselves as creators, especially early on when we don't have anybody expecting our work, when we don't have anyone really caring about our work? And so when we lose this accountability, when we lose those deadlines, and we lose having to meet expectations of professors or teachers, it leads to a lot of people not continuing writing. And this is why so many people will go through an MFA program, they'll go through a creative writing program, they'll go through years and years of school, and they'll come out, and without these deadlines, they end up not writing. It's crazy the percentage of people who get their MFA and then never write ever again. And a lot of this might be due to external factors. A lot of people will start a family after graduating, but so many times it's the lack of accountability. So I'm going to be giving you tips and tricks on how to hold yourself accountable, how to not be one of those people who goes through education, has a deep passion and a love for writing, and ends up at the end of it all saying, I don't feel the desire to hold myself accountable. I can't write. And so I know of people personally who at one point in time have told me that they wanted to be a writer, that they wanted to pursue writing, but what always held them back wasn't necessarily holding themselves accountable. It was more so this fear, the idea that no one cares about my story. Who am I? And it leads to a lot of self-doubt. And self-doubt, I believe, goes hand in hand with this idea of holding yourself accountable. Because if you're at a job, you have a boss standing over you. You have expectations and deadlines that you have to meet. Otherwise, you're going to get fired. But as an author, as a creative individual, no one's going to come and fire you as an author and say, you didn't write again today? I'm never going to read you ever again. There's no hope for you. Because trust me, there is hope for us as writers. There's hope for all of us as creative individuals, as long as we keep going, as long as we keep creating. And it's when you take time away from the work and the work becomes stale, when the work becomes just work and it doesn't become enjoyable anymore, that's when people will typically fall out of writing, and they'll end up putting it away and they'll never visit it again for many, many years. And this is something you want to avoid, because the more writing you do, the stronger you're going to become as an author. Again, a lot of my videos boil down to the idea of read more, write more, and over time you will improve your writing skills. And these videos are designed to help you improve your writing skills faster, and to give some tidbits and a little bit of insight into the working day, the everyday life of an author, of a writer pursuing his career as an author. And if you want to check out any of my publications, they are linked in the video description down below. You can check those out at your own time. Again, I write short stories. I'm a horror author, so if that's your jam and you want to be spooky, by all means, check out some of my publications. But when people tell me that they fear that no one cares about their stories, when they fear that no one cares about who they are as an individual, when they feel like they're just not important enough to be a writer that they're not at a point where they are capable of telling a story where they just feel no one's going to care about what they're writing. And honestly, I have people in my own life who don't care about my writing. They don't read horror, or they don't read at all. And a lot of those people are just kind of people that you'll come across on your writing journey. The real secret is that the only person that you have to be writing about, the only person you have to be writing for that's going to hold yourself accountable. Because especially early on, you're not going to have anyone who knows your name. You're not going to be a household name. People aren't going to be eagerly expecting your next publication. The only person you have to worry about writing for in the beginning and throughout your writing career is yourself. Write for yourself first and foremost, and this will yourself that you have to write the story for yourself, because by writing the story for yourself and not caring about who else is going to read it, this is going to hold yourself accountable, because if you don't tell your story, no one else is going to write it. So you have to be the one to put in the work. You have to try and make writing a habit. And I've done a video all about making writing a habit that will be linked somewhere in this video. So make sure that you check that one out as well. But you have to write for yourself first and foremost. And there's a really great quote that goes something like, it's better to write for oneself and have no audience than to write for an audience and have no self. So the best way to hold yourself accountable is to expect yourself to be writing, and don't expect to make money out of writing. It's not necessarily going to pay your bills, and so you have to demand yourself to tell yourself your stories, because you have to value your own writing. If you don't value your own writing, you're not going to hold yourself accountable. So even if you're writing bad writing, know that your bad writing, even your bad writing, has value. Because no matter what you do, you're never going to get everyone to enjoy your writing. Even some of the most successful authors of all time, they don't have 100% readership. Not everyone reads Stephen King. Not everyone reads J.K. Rowling. Not everyone reads 50 Shades of Grey, E.L. James. And understand that you have to value your writing before anyone else. You have to see a value, you have to see a purpose in your writing, in the act of sitting down and writing every day, because writing is a labor of love. And especially early on, when you're getting hammered with rejection, when everything you're submitting out there is getting rejected, you have to see value in your work. Otherwise, you're not going to hold yourself accountable. So hold yourself accountable, and this is going to allow you to fall in love with your writing. You have to love your writing first and foremost, and write for yourself. Don't worry about an audience. If you write for an audience, you're going to have a very hard time, and again, especially early on. But throughout your entire career, if you're constantly worrying about what other people are going to think about your writing, you're going to have a very hard time holding yourself accountable. You're going to have to drag yourself out of bed. I wake up extremely early and I do my writing not for anyone else, but because I love to write, and because I want to tell myself these stories. These are stories that no one else is going to write. And you have to view your own writing in the same way that there are no elves hiding in the closets. There are no skeletons in the closets. Although I might have a few in my closet, but that's just for Halloween decorations. And then another great way to hold yourself accountable for writing is to join a writer's group. It's one of the big benefits of joining a writer's group, or even sharing your work with someone else that you trust. Maybe you exchange manuscripts with another person every so often. You exchange stories, you share some of your writing, you have someone there to check in on how your writing is going, on how your writing project is going, and you send it back and forth, and whether or not they're actually critiquing it, it's still, you're building in that accountability, and you have to hold yourself accountable. So you have to try, if you're struggling with holding yourself accountable, you have to try and replicate those deadlines and those expectations that you have in other areas of your life. You have to hold yourself accountable as you would a job. You have to hold yourself accountable as though these are deadlines that you need to meet. And maybe sometimes you don't meet those deadlines, and don't beat yourself up over it, but do your best to make sure that you are writing as often and as much as you can. Again, as it becomes habit, you might not even have to worry about holding yourself accountable. You'll do it automatically. You'll wake up at 3, 4 in the morning and you'll be at your desk just instinctively writing away at whatever you're writing. So a great thing to do would be to talk to other writers, and you can typically find people who are writers and people who love books at bookstores of all places. Oh my God, people at bookstores? Yes, go to a bookstore, go to a library, go somewhere where there are books and ask around, talk to a bookseller, go to your favorite bookstore, go to a library and ask around if there are any literary groups, if there's anyone who might be interested in starting a literary critique group, or even just come in and talk about your novel to someone that you can start to develop a relationship with. And this is going to help hold you accountable, because you have to hold yourself accountable in any kind of creative field. There's no one standing over your shoulder. You don't have elves in the closet. You don't have skeletons who are going to come out in the middle of the night and suddenly finish your story. The only person who can write your story is you. So you have to hold yourself accountable. You have to do the writing. You have to get yourself out of bed. And if you don't, your story will never be told, and that has to eat you up inside. If your story is never told because you decided, I'm just not going to do it, day after day after day, or say, I'm not good enough, no one's going to care. Again, write for yourself. Write for yourself first, and the audience will eventually find you. So remember that writing is a privilege. Not everyone is able to write. Not everyone has the time. Not everyone has the ability or the capacity to write. So writing is such a privilege, and it's one of the greatest joys in my life. This morning I was going for a walk, and walking home, and I just went, wow, I am able to write, and I'm able to publish, and not everyone is able to write. Writing is a privilege. It's a skill that you can develop, and so I highly hope that this video was able to help you. And as always, keep it spooky. And of course, here's your writing prompt for sticking around all the way through the video. The house was decorated with Halloween decorations that reminded me of blank. So set your timer and start writing. Thank you so much.